Good morning. Welcome back. This is Gary Stotko with the Restaurant Technology Guys. Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning, everyone.
This is one of the best shows of the year. It really is. We're so excited to share with you guys today what we saw at NRF. This trip, annually now, gives us the opportunity to share with you guys more about what's coming down the pike. Jer, we've recognized over the last handful of years that technology is hitting hospitality via retail faster than ever before, and I know you've used some numbers that you're seeing.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I would say a few years back it was a much longer cycle, a churn cycle for technology, and it seems like it's getting shorter as the lines between retail, grocery, and hospitality restaurants all kind of start to blur, and you get these different retailers that start serving food, and coffee places that are serving food. They all kind of have blended together a bit, and so again, we're part of why people will ask, why are you going to a retail show? Because we want to see what's coming before you guys get to see it, because we know that it's going to eventually hit the restaurant space, and so we want to be on the forefront of that to be able to help you guys out.
Absolutely, 87%. Almost 90% of the people participate in the decision-making process.
That registered to go to the show.
Yeah, filled with executives. We're going to, for you analytics, we're going to throw some pie charts up there. Some of them you're able to see, some of them you're not able to see, because as we change slides, the slivers become smaller. So we'll paraphrase this stuff for you, but this really is all about the validity of this show. So Jeremy, with company purchases, what? 50% or more are investing over $100,000.
Yeah, no, it's huge numbers. I mean, the thing that not only did we see last year and even this year, there was certain booths that we couldn't even get into. And we'll talk a bit more about what those things look like. And so there was booths we couldn't even get into because there was people looking to purchase stuff, which to me is a good sign that for our business, obviously, since we sell technology, but also that that people are investing in what they believe is going to take their business to the next level. And so, again, as we start to talk about the things, we'll show you guys where we think it's going and what we found that was really good. So.
Absolutely, and some of it segues with last year, some of it is a continuation, and some of it is brand new or quite interesting, either way. Job responsibility, Jer, over 90% of the individuals that are participating, high-powered purchasers, we call them, are at this show by job responsibility. 25% of those, 1/4, are representing IT, and then the rest is just a wide swath of executives.
Yep. Yeah. No, and just different. Whether it's marketing or operations. Tons of just different groupings there. And as you look at this next pie chart, it just kind of talks about who's represented there. You don't see a whole lot of restaurant, in that pie. But there's technology people, there's grocery people, there's online resellers, there's specialty apparel, places. So again, a wide swath. So you'll also get that in the presenters and the people that are exhibiting.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, these shows bring us technology that is being introduced, and we dovetail back to this again. We are following technology that's being introduced to a larger segment of our sliver hospitality. And man, this stuff is hitting hospitality faster than ever before.
Yeah, no, and I think the cycles used to be, and I don't know that I threw them out there, but they used to be 3 to 4 years. We'd see it in the retail space, and then it would come to hospitality, and we'd have customers start calling us, or we'd have vendors say, hey, this was working in retail. What do you guys think about it? Now that cycle has changed from what used to be 3 to 4 years, 5 years, down to sometimes it's getting introduced into the restaurant space at the same time as happening in retail.
Totally, and we'll talk about facial recognition and some of the wild stuff that we saw. That it's coming in some form or fashion. So to wrap up about why we go to NRF, 104 years. The Retail Federation is the largest organization of its kind in the world. It's a trade group, trade association, and it's huge. 28,000 plus attendees. I think it was closer to
30. Yeah, no, it was over 30. It was over 30 last year. They haven't gotten final registration for this year posted yet, but there was over 30,000 attendees that were there last year, and I would say just based on feel, I don't know this statistically, but just based on feel, there was places that you would walk through, like I said, in booths, as well as in the aisles, and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and to endorse that, I think in this slide shot here, this is last year with my big old melon head with short hair. But if you look in the background, I wish, and next year we'll do this, is we need to do a selfie every year, because this year it would have been packed with people. There was not a moment during the day, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, that the floor wasn't pumping. Yep. Whether it is manufacturers and their representatives or attendees and customers.
And talking with our partners that were there, whether it's Toshiba or HP or Verifone, they just said, you know what, the place was packed. Yep. The place was packed, and we had dinner with one of our partners the last evening we were there, and he literally said he could hardly get a breath. He was having a hard time getting out to get food because he was just constantly in his booth with people looking to talk about some of the things we'll share with you guys here today.
Yeah, yeah. You get why we get so pumped up about it. Obviously, we're in New York, and that is enough in itself for me. With that said, there's two reasons for CPS to participate, for restaurant technology guys to be there. One, obviously, is to deliver this information back to you right from the manufacturer. We had dinner with Toshiba or HP or whomever it may be, and that is not patting ourselves on the back. It is just the value of the other reason that we're there, and that is relationships. These relationships allow us to deliver to you, our consumer, frontline information as fast as we possibly can get it. So let's jump in, Jay.
Okay. Oh.
Last year recap, I'm sorry, lack of mobile payment options.
Yeah, so really this slide is really kind of, we looked at last year's slide deck that we did live from New York. We obviously are not doing it live from New York this time, but we're doing it as we've returned and kind of looked at it. These are some of the things that we talked about in last year's show. Wanted to kind of recap them so that we could say, you know what, these are some things that we saw. There wasn't a whole lot of mobile payment options. The whole idea of multi-channel sales, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but that was big last year. Digital signage was huge last year. There was nothing short of 15 vendors last year that had digital signage, and so again, we'll talk about that. There was a lot of different Windows-based tablet options last year out there, and then the marketing analytics in retail specifically, but I think across the board, marketing analytics continues to play a huge role in consumer spend and consumers. So this is what we talked about last year to catch you guys up. Some of you guys are probably new to the show and didn't know that we had even done a show last year. You can go find it on our YouTube channel and hit us up on social media, and we can redirect you back to what we saw last year. But as we go through this, we'll kind of talk about what some of the highlights were from this year as well as last year.
Yeah, we always try to keep these 30, 35 minutes, this format with a recap of a show this large. I apologize up front if we blah, blah, blah and run over. Having said that, we'll go through it as quick as possible, but we'll do comparisons to last year also with concern to these bullets. If you guys have questions while we're going through this stuff, really open format. Go down to the bottom right-hand corner of your go-to controller and just ping us a question. We'll do our very best to answer those as we go through. So, top 5 things we liked best in 2015 at NRF. Number 5, digital customer engagement. It's evolving. We saw less digital signage, but more direct software engaging the consumer at the sale.
Yep, very much so. And last year, it seemed like everybody wanted to just put up a huge, big screen TV and broadcast everything, where it seems like now retailers and manufacturers and software providers are getting smarter about it. They're coming and pinpointing what you might need, whether that be on a tablet, whether that be on a phone, whether that be in these screens that are in different spaces. So definitely, rather than having any kind of flat menu boards, there was a lot more in the way of just multiple forms of engagement. Small, medium, large, touch screen enabled. Even when you walk into the show, you can go find your booth by walking up to a 40-inch touchscreen and I'm looking to go see HP, and you can type in HP and it'll tell you where it's at and give you a walking path. So
like Target or Walmart.
Yep, exactly.
So what you'll see a theme as we go through this information. You will see a common thread, and it is all about sharing information. The analysts, the software developers want to tie the consumer behavior at the earliest point possible. Engagement and then measurement, and you'll see that theme as we go through this. Number 4, loyalty and omni-channel, which is a perfect segue from my last statement. Consumers follow behavioral consistencies. It started with credit cards way back when with American Express and the value of your loyalty and membership and hotels, and it's made its way into hospitality, and retail bonds was one of the very first with Bonds Club here in Southern California over a decade ago. Now, taking my consumer, Jeremy Julian, and connecting him to his purchase or allowing for multiple types of purchase.
Yeah, no, and I think you guys, well, I shouldn't say I think you guys know, because I know, at least in my personal life, I've talked to relatives and I've asked them about this. But retailers, restaurateurs, anybody that you're purchasing from, if they've got a strategy to go after the consumer, they know who you are, they know what you want to buy, they know what life stage you're in. If you go back even in our YouTube channel to our Patronics conversation, they would talk about specific marketing and when do you send out the email to say the coupon. You know, if it's a lunch-based coupon, don't send it out at 6 o'clock at night, because you know what? You're not going to get the same uptick. And so these retailers are figuring out who you are, where your purchasing is at, and they're directing offers to take wallet share from you. Yeah. When people hear loyalty, they think of a card that's in your wallet. Well, it has gone so far beyond that, and we put the card symbol up on the screen simply as a placeholder to say, this is what it used to look like years ago. It's no longer like that. They're aggregating data, and again, I'll give you guys just another quick anecdote. Maybe 6 months ago, 60 Minutes had a whole piece on this, on what retailers are doing, and the restaurants are going to have to catch up to understand how to engage with your guests and know that it's the same guest that walked into your store, that bought something online last week, that was browsing your website 2 weeks ago. You need to understand that whole multiple points of engagement. If I ordered a takeout order and now I'm the same person that's walking in to dine in my restaurant, what's my timing? Who am I seated with? What am I doing? Gary and I might go to lunch, and it's a business lunch, but then when I go in at dinner, it's with my family, and so that my meal is going to look different. My purchasing habits are going to look different. And so understanding through the data, as Gary alluded to, who your guest is, what they're looking for, and how do you influence their wallet share.
Exactly. You think about one quick example. If you increased me in your database as a consumer and I make another purchase per month, I've increased your sales to me as a consumer by 100%.
Yeah, no, and it's huge. So what we were seeing is all of these technology providers that are either playing well with each other and or having a holistic solution where they're saying, you know what, let us look at our web traffic, let us look at our traffic that's coming into the stores, let us look at the iPhone app and the Android apps that are on the phones, and let's figure out who these people are, and then let's start to churn the data to get offers that are applicable to them, so that we can get that, you know, just like Gary said, that 100% increase.
Yep, and relevant, consistent, timely.
Yep.
So, number 3, data analytics. Again, our segue. We keep talking about engage me, put me into a database, analyze my behavior, and here we are. Number 3, data analytics, Jay.
Yeah, no, and there was no shortage of data analytics companies that would take your data, look at it, and give you, sometimes it was operational efficiency. And these, you know, we'll tie a little bit back into, you know, this whole, outer space type idea of beacons and knowing where you are. But some of it's, where are the purchases being made in your store? Where does staffing need to happen? Where does inventory need to be? Where does, you know, you think about all of the different aspects of your business, the time that people are spending. If I can reduce the amount of time to get them to purchase, that's more time that a different consumer can be using that space. And so turning that customer into a sale, understanding where they're at, and maximizing your efficiency for your labor, maximizing your efficiency for your inventory, and understanding what your consumer is looking for so that you can make sure that your purchases are on the shelf, ready for them when they want them, where they want them.
Yeah. Perfect, Jake. Number 2, mobile. smaller devices, larger devices, make it bigger, make it easier, make it faster.
Yeah, no, and again, because it's a retail-focused show, you get a lot of people that are looking to barcode inventory on their mobile solutions and things like that. So not 100% playing into our space, but oftentimes the manufacturers are smart enough to realize, well, you know what, if I can just take this barcode reader off of it, well, you know what, then it'll play into the hospitality space. So we saw some Windows-based tablets, we saw some Android-based tablets. With the looming EMV solution, and we'll talk a little bit about that, a lot of people were saying, how are we going to get this mobile tablet to integrate with EMV, to be able to take payment in the space? So a lot of different players, that's one. Second thing about mobile was the idea of getting wireless into the space and knowing where that wireless is and how is that wireless moving to be able to manage those devices, manage those consumers, and whatnot. So
with our own solution, North Star Order Entry, a tablet-based iPad solution, and the number one question we're asked, Jeremy, is how do I secure the device?
Yeah,
it's consumer friendly. It's right at their fingertips.
But yeah, the whole idea of mobile device management. Now that we're putting so many of these, whether it's BYOD, bring your own device, or it's company supplied devices. Now, how do we secure them? How do we know that they're using them for business purposes? How do we know that the traffic that's going through the restaurant and or the retail establishment is appropriate? All of that stuff and tools to be able to manage those things continue to wrap around as consumerization of IT gets into our space.
And to add to that real quickly, with that security, I referenced a device at the table or a device in the restaurant. It was also for the corporations out there, the finance and IT folks, it was about employee devices.
Yep.
We have the churn inside of our businesses with tablets and phones, with our own employees, with our own staff, and the ability to manage those devices more efficiently. We've all run into the headache of someone else's Apple ID.
Yep.
You referenced it, the 400-pound paperweight?
Yeah, exactly. Or $400 paperweight.
Yeah.
The one last thing I do want to say about mobile that I thought was interesting is almost all technology providers that are out there are also designing their application for mobile. So whether it be the data analytics companies that we've talked about or the device management companies, they all have a browser-based solution, that sits on a desktop, but also will work on your phone or also will work on your iPad or your Android-based tablet. And so as you start to look at your strategy as a restaurateur or as a supplier, because we've got a broad swath of people that are on this call, you have to be thinking everybody's going mobile. You guys know it inherently, but think about it as a strategy, because if you don't, you're going to be left in the dark and be bypassed by these people that are doing all of these different things.
Absolutely. Jeremy referenced earlier a share of wallet.
Yeah, wallet share.
In marketing, we always called it brain cells. With drip marketing, you want to stay top of mind, or I want that 10 seconds of you thought of me and my brand and what I represent. In this instance, it's the exact opposite. It is for the restaurateur to be able to have wallet share of their consumer, and here's how you're going to get there. The roadmap between the business and the consumer's device.
Yep, very much so.
The number one item, the race to EMV. This is here we go. I'm going to hit the hornet's nest a couple times, but let's start talking.
Yeah, so again, there's tons of articles out there on the whole EMV change and liability shift come October. I guess where what we found is a lot of people are talking about it. Ironically, not a lot of people have a fully baked solution that's integrated to their existing technology stack.
So let me stop you there real quick, because we're going to simplify this to the nth degree, or that's my goal. So get ready to fire in questions if we don't pull this off. If we start with the responsibility shifting to the restaurateur, October of 2015, the responsibility of a transaction taken by a card that has not been checked via.
So you want me to kind of go through, at least as I understand it, both from going through the show as well as talking to some of our customers who've been going to seminars, and I've been reading a lot about it. October 2015, if a card has an EMV chip on it, which a very small percentage of them do today, but more will be growing, and the consumer presents a card with that, the merchant is responsible to take that card as an EMV transaction if there's an EMV chip on it. If they do not have the capability technologically to do so, then if that card comes up stolen or they dispute those charges, then the merchant is automatically liable. That's where the liability shift is. Okay. Today, with a swipe transaction, the liability lands on the card brand as well as the bank as well as the merchant, depending upon where the liability or where the breach happened. Okay. Now, in EMV, as soon as you get the EMV, if the EMV card is presented, you have to take it as an EMV card, or the merchant bears 100% liability for any chargeback that happens on that transaction.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there because that's a really good description, Jay. And so what I want to add, because this is not a Chicken Little, the sky is falling, oh my God, I'm not an alarmist in this instance. One of the things that you've got to keep in mind is that bearing that responsibility. If I've stolen a credit card, and this was shared to us by when we were in
Alan,
with Alan, was if you've stolen a credit card, the likeliness of you going out to go get a $6 burger and a $2 Coke and fries, low. If you're a high-end restaurant, you could creep into that zone, but most likely these people are going to your consumer electronics. They're going to, the thief wants a little bang for their buck, I guess. So yes, the restaurateur bears responsibility. Now let's move to phase 2, which would be
somebody that just
the device that allows me to pull this off.
So that's where kind of, I guess, the race to EMV and why we put that on the slide is there's really two very large players in the EMV space and in the device manufacturing space, in Verifone and in Ingenico. But there's about 50 other players that are in this space. I say it's a race to it because in talking with those players, it's a 6 to 9 month uptime to get up and going, and it's a 6 to 9 month time to get integration going with your existing payment platform, whether you're running with NCR or you're running with Micros, or you're going with PosiTouch, or you're going with order entry. Yeah, you've got to certify the hardware device, talking to your merchant for EMV transactions. So there's a time frame requirement as well as a device certification process. So.
Yep. And Ingenico and Verifone are facing these challenges with the biggest customers. So trickle-down effect.
Well, and the other thing is the rules by card brand and the rules by merchant are different. Some are going to require a chip and signature. Some are going to require a chip and PIN. Some of them are going to, and you guys as restaurateurs are all different as well, because you've got some are casual dining, some are counter service, so a different device is going to live at the counter, like you would go to a Walmart or a Target. That would be a similar device to a counter service restaurant, a table service restaurant where you might want to take the device, or if you don't want to take the device out to them, there are some of these manufacturers are making card readers that have a chip device in them. So you could pull the card from the table like you do today, but instead of swiping it, you insert it into a slot if we're doing chip and signature. So the jury is still out depending upon what your current status is with your current vendor. Again, what I've been telling our sales representatives and any of our customers that I talk to directly is if you have to have EMV today, go find a non-integrated device until the integrations are able to get made. And we're going to hold ourselves responsible for presenting that data both through our blog as well as on our webinar series when they become available for different merchant processors with our platforms, whether it be PosiTouch or North Shore Order Entry. But they're coming. They're coming. It's just the certifications take 6 to 9 months, and it's a big, huge log jam to get there.
Yep. And we'll see if the date moves. If it doesn't, then you've got a solution in a fixed device. And then, so lastly, we talked about responsibility. We talked about the device. The third would be the software that's communicating to. And it seems to me that with First Data and other large processors, they're making progress. the integrators are making the progress for that technology to communicate with software and or back to your other device.
No, and again, that's where the difficulty is, and so I think you guys will see a lot of it shake out. We're going to probably have, you know, another full webinar just on EMV as time goes on, maybe even 2 or 3. So just expect stuff out there. Learn as much as you guys can. There's tons and tons of information out there. I would first call, if I were you, your merchant processor and say, what's your strategy? Tell me what it's going to take to get me certified, because that's where it has to start. And then call your POS provider. Your POS provider will get in touch with that merchant processor and figure out where in the log jam they are, whether they're at the front of the line or at the back of the line, and what that process looks like, both from a financial responsibility perspective as well as a coding perspective.
And then I'll go out on a limb, but it really isn't. It's a pretty strong limb. The reality is that end-to-end encryption would resolve a lot of these security challenges.
Yeah, no, and again, you guys might remember, any of you guys that have been around for a while with the restaurant technology guys, we did have a whole webinar on end-to-end encryption as well as EMV, and with Mimi Hart from MagTech. So you can go back and always watch that and listen to kind of what end-to-end gives you versus what EMV gives you, because it's a multi-pronged approach to credit card security. But lots and lots of people at the show. We'll wrap back to the show. Lots and lots of people saying, what are you going to do for EMV? What are your customers doing for EMV? What hardware are you guys thinking about going with? What are the processors saying? I must have heard those questions 25 times throughout the show from different people.
And we walked away with a bunch of question marks.
And we walked away with a bunch of, yeah, we got to, I mean, and not that we didn't know about it prior to, but we were hoping to go there with a, hey, here's a couple silver bullets, just put it in, and none of that was the case. So
yeah, it's between the banks, it's between the Verifone and Ingenico and their like providers, and it's the software.
Yeah.
I belabored that and I apologize, but it's good information. So our honorable mentions. This ELO curve screen was cool. So this stuff is, some of these things that you guys are going to see really don't have an application. It's where the manufacturer takes a swing at something, puts it out in front of 30,000 plus people, and let's see what happens. We talked to the account manager, and we'd asked her, so what do you think your use case is? And she shrugged her shoulders and threw out a couple items, but some type of kiosk circumstance, something that's in your face, branding heavy, leveraging that digital picture that you're able to see.
Yeah, so the honorable mentions, Gary and I kind of just looked back and said, what are some of the cool things? We have no idea what you guys are going to use them for, but what are some of the cool things that we thought we would bring you? And maybe you guys with some creativity out there, when we've got quite a few people sitting listening, you guys can come back and say, you know what? Hey, put me in touch with the ELO guys. I'd love to see this, or as we go through some of the other things. So not 100% sure what, but it was kind of cool. It looked cool. It had like a little app on it that you could play with some yogurt, and I don't know, it was a little Star Wars-ish. It was kind of funny.
Yeah. This, I referenced facial recognition.
Yeah.
So, some of this stuff, as you guys know, it borders that creepiness factor, but this one, it's truly around security. I could see it being used at airports and banks and things like that, where you're able to have a database that will go through X amount of thousands of people with photographs and do some type of quick comparison.
Yeah, no, and again, this was another piece of technology. It's been around for a long time, and I think that, if you were to ask some of the people in our government or in other governments around the world, it probably exists, but they're looking at it and saying, how do we either reduce theft, from somebody that's a dine and dasher for sake of argument, and or somebody that's done something illegitimate within our space, and recognize them. On the positive side, at the same time, they have an API at this company that they could do the opposite. If you've got your regular lunch guests, it could send you an alert to the management instead of saying, hey, Gary stole something last week. Hey, Gary's a VIP. Go up and greet him at table 35.
Right.
So, two sides of that coin, but recognizing who is in the restaurant without having to know them and be in that space and using technology to do it was where we thought it might be able to play. And so we thought we would throw it out there to see what you guys' thoughts were on it.
Yeah, we'll see where this ends up in coming years, quite frankly. So, Tableau. Oh, man, this stuff. And keep in mind that we probably spent 10, 15, 20 minutes with the representatives. We tried to find the highest level representative within the business. And with this product, again, Jeremy, take us through this business intelligence, because this layer is incredible.
Yeah, I've never seen a tool that gives the ability to do slicing and dicing of data any better than this tool. Ironically, we're looking at it for our own internal business to use to do some data analysis, and we walked up, and this lady within 5 minutes was able to give me this data analytics of sales by categories, taking it straight out of a spreadsheet, didn't need any SQL, didn't need any programming, and if you can browse the web, you can create some really killer data analytics reports, and the software is not very expensive. And so whether we partner with them later in our time, but if you haven't heard of Tableau and you have a need for data analytics, I would strongly suggest you look at their online demo. I think it's even free to try for 30 days. And you know, any of those people that are in your organization that are looking to present to executives, present sales pitches, present, you know, just, I mean, any way that you want to present data to be able to make better business decisions, and you don't have a tool like this, I would strongly suggest you looking at it.
Yeah, it's safe for me to describe it as a presentation layer of any type of data resources that you might be going into, whether it's Excel at the lowest level all the way up to
Oracle
or anybody.
Yep.
Absolutely astonishing software, and super duper powerful. I love this stuff because it allows finance people and marketing people and support personnel and allow you to drill down into your numbers and get the facts about what you need to do next to be a responsive business.
Yep.
Sprout. So HP always comes out with some cool stuff. This one, Jer, was one of those things. It might not play in hospitality. It's new to the consumer space and the commercial space, but this piece takes a 3D picture.
Well, yeah, so this is a tool that has kind of the idea of a touchscreen. So if you look at the pictures there, there's a touchscreen in the back that has a whole bunch of software, but then there's a mat in front that has a camera over it, and it can take photographs, use pen technology, use your hands to move stuff. I've actually got a video that this guy took a digital image, a digital 3D image of I don't know, think of Phantom of the Opera, like that mask that the guy puts on Phantom of the Opera, and he's like moving it around and drawing on it and coloring it to show. Again, I'm not 100% sure what the application might be. Maybe to take 3D digital images of your food so that you can present it. Yeah, menu engineering, something. Yeah, how do you want your presentation layer to be taking video of that stuff without? And it's relatively inexpensive. So.
Yeah, in fact, we'll tweet that out so you guys can ping that and see it. It's what, a 15-second?
15-second video, but it's really quite cool. So
super short.
If you go to Russ Tech Guys on Twitter, you guys can see that video sometime later on today.
Absolutely. And missed shots. What wasn't there that we were looking for? So we were looking for a firm final direction on EMV.
Yeah.
We didn't get it. We talked to the manufacturer. They told us where they're at. We're listening to the consumer. They're still wondering. It was the topic between ourselves and our customers that we got to see with Brian and BJ's and others.
Yeah, no, and again, what Gary and I looked at, you know, as we were flying home and packing up and leaving, we said, what were we expecting to see? Last year we went into this webinar with a whole preconceived notion of what we were going to do. This year we tried to go to the show completely blank slate without any expectations. And although that's hard to do, you know, because you always have an expectation when you're going to anything. And so we went in with, hey, we're going to try and figure out what's going on with more tablets. We're going to try and figure out what's going on with EMV. We're going to try and figure out what's going on with digital signage.
Yeah, and mobility and
all of these different things. And unfortunately, we came away with more questions than we did answers on EMV.
Yeah, safe to say that the device manufacturers are ready. The consumer is getting ready because their banks are issuing these cards as we speak. And we should say that the banks have, in my opinion, from what I've read, the banks have chosen chip and signature because it's the cheap way to go. And then lastly, the software. Your point-of-sale software has got to communicate with all three. So we came away knowing that people are headed in the right direction, that it's going to happen, and nothing's final, but the sky's not falling either.
Yeah, no, and a lot of people are going to be working on it. There's going to be more people in the space.
Yep.
And so I think it'll continue to flesh out in the coming months.
We'll keep talking about it. Microsoft tablets. Last year, you know, as our industry is dragging us into selling different types of tablets, what's dependable, what will last, how low can we go, because cost always comes into it. How low can we go with a consumer device and have it survive in a commercial atmosphere?
Yeah, we didn't see, you know, we talked a little bit earlier about the top 5 things, and we said mobile, 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 but it was mobile, mobile, mobile from a software application perspective, mobile, mobile, mobile from a, you know, kind of strategy, but not all had a hardware devices, and we're not sure why. You know, we talked to some of the hardware manufacturers, and a lot of people, I mean, we did coming out of last year's NRF, we did a top, you know, in one of our best attended webinars was the best tablets that are out there. We were hoping to have another 5 or 10 that came out of this year.
Yeah.
There was 2. Yeah. There was literally 2 out of all of the hardware manufacturers there that we said, you know what, these would be something that we would even present to our audience, which was unfortunate because we were hoping to have more of them out there.
And last year we walked into the Microsoft booth, and every major manufacturer was represented with a tablet, in addition to a handful of what they would consider possibilities to put, you know, some new vendor partners. We talked to the folks from Korea and Japan that we both looked at and go, wow, this is durable. It's got a nice retail encasement.
Nothing. They weren't even there.
It was like a Western and tumbleweeds blowing down the hallway when it came to new tablets.
Yeah, it was a bit disappointing.
Beacon. This comes back to our discussion about engaging the customer at the point of purchase or even before the point of purchase and measuring those analytics. We're talking about tablets and phones and mobility.
Yeah, and the whole idea of beacons, and everybody's been hearing about these little white things that are going to be, and Ryan actually did get pinged with a beacon, or, you know, when he was in New York for something else, but it was auspiciously missing because last year a lot of people were talking about it, and so I was hoping that there was going to be some people that had done it and had case studies and could talk about a holistic solution, and we got some people that made beacons without the software, and some people that made software that would read the beacon stuff, but not a whole lot of integrated, and I was just surprised that in a year, you know, it's been a whole year since we last and everybody was talking about this stuff, we haven't gotten a whole lot of beacon synergy, I guess. Right. So a lot of people are talking about it, similar to EMV, but not a whole lot of solutions. So I was surprised with that.
I will throw in with that is, so if I was to, everything to me is like putting a puzzle together, and business is that way too. And so if I was figuring out that the beacon is the connection between my mobile device, my smartphone or my tablet, and the retailer, then that's a no-brainer. We can see where this path will go. What is interesting is that beacon provider is only able to provide you, usually it's connected via security provider. Obviously, wireless security is paramount in this day and age. But the softwares I haven't seen the bridge between the softwares that measure it and talk about it and the devices that do it, and then those analytic softwares that we're talking about. And
yeah, I think there was even more hardware vendors last year that had beacons, and there was only a couple, and they didn't have a software solution, and then the people that had software that would talk to the beacons for marketing analytics that we talked about didn't have beacons. So it was just kind of weird.
And then this segues to Experian, because they were what, to me, I remember us raving about the size of this booth and them introducing this customer engagement analytics software when we were talking about it last year. Well, they weren't there this year. They weren't pushing that capability.
Yeah, they didn't make a splash. Ryan and I actually went this morning, and they were there, but we walked the show floor 3 times and never saw them. They had a much larger booth last year. They were talking about football, and not once did Gary and I. So Experian, and if you remember from last year's webinar, that those of you guys that attended, they had a whole how many people are coming, where are they at, kind of via cameras and sensors, not the whole beacon technology.
Correct.
None of that stuff, I guess we never found them. And so whatever they didn't do, we didn't find them, or it didn't stand out well enough to us to say these guys really had their crap together. And not that I'm saying that they're a poor company. They didn't make an impression on us this year enough that we saw them and saw what they were doing
and what they're promoting. Right, exactly. This is an opportunity for these major corporations with this extraordinarily large audience to splash a product. And we kind of go back the second year and the third year to look to see who the survivors are. This is a dog-eat-dog world, and we're looking for sole survivors that are going to continue to plug forward. So I don't want to belabor that, but Experian intrigues the heck out of me. You know, you guys know that name from they and TransUnion and Equifax are your credit aggregators. So they have a direct contact to a huge database of yours and my information. And I'm curious if they run into some type of federal guidelines that prevent them from taking data that they're attaining via a secure or hopefully a secure credit transaction and leveraging that to the consumer. We'll see how that shakes out. But that's the question I walked away with was,
yeah, what happened?
What wall did they run into? And it could have just been business. It wasn't wise to keep making that investment, and they didn't see it pay off, and smaller companies could do it more nimbly. So, folks, lastly, the credit card people.
Yeah,
Visa, MasterCard.
They were there last year in force, and again, auspiciously missing. I was hoping that they were going to be, and I will put one caveat in there. Gary and I go to the exhibit. We do not go to the show and the presenters. That's a much larger time commitment, and our goal is to get out and find what vendors are doing to be able to present those things to you guys. They may have been there, but auspiciously missing, again, talking about the EMV content, is where was Visa coming up and saying, hey, this is the way to get there? Where was MasterCard coming up and saying, this is what we're going to do to drive the card brand? I mean, the cards out into the space, just didn't see it.
Yeah, I throw out there, I guess as a consumer, I'm disappointed that I don't see the banks taking a stronger leadership in educating the consumer, and I don't see the credit card providers, the major ones represented on this screen, taking a leadership to their consumer and saying, here's where this all is going down, and here's how it's going to end up, and here's how you benefit from it. Interesting. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but they're sitting in the upper seats.
It just bums me out that they weren't taking that leadership role and telling us what to do.
They could afford better seats at this game. So top 5 from 2015, the engagement. Let's tie this up really quick, Jer, with you know what, the retailer is being provided the capabilities, whether hardware or software, led by software right now, to engage the consumer and measure it.
Yep.
Loyalty. Again, I get that person to frequent my establishment once, more than once. I'm seeing these not only sometimes incremental, but some astronomical jumps in my percentage of sale per person.
Yeah, no, and again, you have to make sure as you're looking at that with your loyalty is make sure that you understand who the customer is that's coming into your restaurant, who's buying online, all of those kind of things.
And how do I get them to do it again?
Yep.
And then the data. Again, this common thread that runs through this stuff is all of this data needs to be analyzed. The challenge we run into in hospitality and all businesses, quite frankly, as I listen to that tumble out of my mouth, is we're all short-staffed. We're all trying to get efficient and effective in this data. It comes from the data. And then mobility. It's going further, faster, mobile.
Yeah, no, and everything will be mobile friendly.
Yep.
Whether it's your website or your, the tools that you guys are using, it's continuing to go there.
Absolutely. And then lastly, the EMV. You brought it up. We'll keep talking about it. This is going to remain a topic for us at least once a month going forward, or something like that going forward until October. And we'll pass through every single bit of information we get, and working on getting a representative from Verifone in here to talk about this also as a guest.
Yep.
So, anything that I missed there, JJ?
No, I think you guys obviously we're a bit over time, and Gary kind of apologized in the beginning about that. We knew that we had a lot of content to bring you guys, but we wanted to make sure that you guys kind of had a recap at the end.
So Q&A. I know that some questions came in. Let me get to those.
And say one of the questions is does Verifone have plans to create a more restaurant-friendly device, or is the demand not there?
So the wireless device that we're looking at that in the future will be attached to tablets, was it both Verifone and Ingenico had sexy little wireless devices that you're looking to get into the building?
Yeah, so there's a couple different approaches that they've had. They've had the build it or partner approach. The build it is they've got a couple of devices that are either GPRS enabled, meaning cellular enabled, and or Wi-Fi enabled that will have to get integrated to the point of sale. The demand is not as great. The certification takes longer because you've got a lot of different parts and pieces in there. So that's part of it. Secondarily, some of the other vendors that are out there, HP is the one that's coming to mind, but I know Toshiba had something and NCR had something, is they're looking at taking either the Magtech device, Ingenico, Verifone, and pairing it, whether it be via hardware and a hardwire connection or a Bluetooth connection, to a small form factor tablet in order to be able to take it at the table.
Right.
And so their approach is either we're going to build a device that looks like that, or we're going to integrate it to an existing tablet solution. Yeah, so that's all we've got for questions. I know we're way over time. So.
Yeah, I apologize again. There's so much content to share with you. One other thing, we did talk about, someone asked about the status of VMV. We've given you that status. And then tablets. Where's tablets going? What has surprised me is how slowly it's taking the major manufacturers to take a commercial device and drive that price down to where the consumer knows it is by walking into Best Buy or jumping onto Amazon.com or you name it.
Well, and I think we've even seen with some of our own direct customers, I've just got one in mind that went and bought a consumer device and then hardened it by throwing a wrapper around it. And so I think we'll see a lot of that. There's one of our partners in Vault Enclosures. That's their entire business, is let's figure out how to get an enclosure to go around a consumer-grade device. And so then you go buy a Microsoft Surface tablet or a Dell Venue Pro tablet, and you throw a wrapper around it. And those are just two manufacturers that I know they have, but they've done it with iPads. They've done it with some Galaxy, Android tablets. And so the tablets are coming. You see all of the mobile space. Now it's just how does it fit into your business strategy and what makes sense.
Yep. That's it for us. Thank you guys for joining us. It's a true honor and a pleasure to have you guys as guests. You guys can reach out to us telephonically or by email with this. And then quick update, as we go into 2015, we're starting a podcast. This webinar itself is really a better podcast format. We don't have a lot of pictures to share, but boy, we have a ton of information that we were researching and looking at and evaluating and considering on your behalf. So this year, we are starting our podcast. Our goal would be to get that up and running by the end of Q1. Excited to invite you guys. We'd love comments, feedback. Hit our blog, hit all of our social engagement abilities, and just give us feedback. Thank you guys. Have a safe and pleasant new year, and we'll see you at the next show. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, guys.